Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
You're one breakthrough away from your next six-figure year. Maybe it's a better offer, a sharper sales process, or finally cracking client acquisition. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets, where every single week we hand you the strategies, frameworks, and real-world plays that are working right now for coaches just like you. I'm your host, the Road Dog, with the e-foil champ who's still trying to figure out, is that a dolphin or a shark? Karl Bryan. Shoots, welcome to the program.
Shoots. How's it going, buddy? What's happening, man? What's happening?
So tell me, buddy, how do you tell the difference between a shark and a dolphin just from the fin? Like, what's happening here? What's going on?
You, buddy, there's a little bit of a nervous moment there. Not gonna lie, but I'll tell you, the dolphins are up on the surface and the sharks tend to be down low. And that's where I want the sharks, by the way, bud. I want them nice and low I want them on the floor of the ocean and not anywhere near me on the foil. If you like my foil, like it's 30, like so on my, like it's a surfboard with a foil. The foil's like 36 inches. Want those guys to be. I would a dolphin one time. No joke. And so let me just tell you real quick. No joke. So I am e-foiling, right? So just picture, you're surfing. It's an electric surfboard. There's a dolphin in front of me, and then I'm going left. I'm going right. Like I'm kind of carving. Think like slalom course. And the dolphin, you work it out, is in front of me and is going, and I'm not exaggerating here. And I feel like if I told you that, if somebody was telling me this, I'd be like, it's really happened, right? So the dolphin is going left, going right with me. The dolphin is in front of me, right? Anyway, so we're scooting along, and then I maybe got going a little bit too fast, and I bumped the dolphin. The dolphin had exactly 0 injuries, to be clear. The dolphin did not get hurt in this exercise, but no joke. I didn't even fall off the board. I kind of kept cruising, so.
Okay, well, side question. What does dolphin taste like?
Wait, don't know, Shoots.
He wasn't hurt that bad. I just thought maybe completely unrelated. Anyways. All right, no dolphins, folks, were hurt at all in any way. PETA, settle down. We're good. We're all right. Greta Thunberg, stay where you are. We're good. All right. Listen. Oh my God. We're going to do everyone's favorite game show. And that is word association, bud. This is it.
Boom.
And I'm not going to start with the Toronto Maple Leafs because they're dead. They're speaking of dead in the water. Boom, the Toronto Maple Leafs shoots.
Get me started.
But well, you know what? I might touch a nerve right out of the gate, though. You ready for the first word association?
Hit me.
Vision board.
Oh, vision board. Okay. So, well, I'll tell you this might disappoint some, but vision boards don't really work, right? And if you were to ask me why, but I can tell you there's a Harvard study, it might be Stanford, MIT, I don't know, but there's the study, you'd be able to search it, right? When you only do visualization of winning, is that like a vision board, right? So you're visualizing winning. Your brain treats your imagination like progress, right? So translation, you get a dopamine hit. You feel rewarded before you actually achieve, quote unquote, the thing, accomplish the quote unquote goal, right? So what happens after, how we say, like, when you get a coaching client, what most coaches do is go to sleep. And when you get the best time to get a coaching client is immediately after you just got one, right? So translation, when you get that dopamine hit, your motivation drops, right? So if you run up against an alligator, right, what you want to do is, if the alligator is full, the crocodile is full, you're probably in good shape. If the crocodile is hungry, you might not be in such good shape. I don't even want to think about the sharks. But anyway, so the motivation drops. Not good, right? It's actually maybe a little bit, but why is porn so bad for young men? There's a wise man who said everything is sex, sex is everything, something to that effect. Well, when they can watch porn and do their thing, right? They're less motivated to go kick butt in the real world and attract the beautiful girl, right? And by the way, just go watch the movie Social Network if you want an example of this and to see it in action. Like him and his buddy basically built Facebook. Why? They wanted to meet cute girls, right? Um, Okay, so if vision board is bad, what do you do instead? I believe this is actually something Kobe Bryant is somewhat famous for. I do know that there's a TED talk by Tim Ferriss. Conceptually the same. It's the same concept, right? So what you do is you set a goal, and then rather than imagining success, what do? You imagine failure, right? So you don't get the deal, the client cancels, the JV ghosts you, after agreeing to send you a few folks, the girl says no to your advances, right? Way more powerful if you write it down, right? So what you do is you write down the worst case scenarios, you write down what failure is going to look like, right? And now what you do for each of the negative outcomes, we'll call it, here's the question: what are you going to do about it? Right. And one of the things you got to be thinking about is removing single points of failure, right? Always a bad thing. But so the client cancels your $5,000 a month coaching program. What do? You got to have a downsell of $1,500 a month for a lesser program for a period of time while they catch up. And by the way, that one shout out to none other than RJ Lowry, a bit of a legend, awesome coach, become a fast friend. And again, he's a client of ours, but he's killing. He's got $10,000 a month clients, $5,000 a month clients. But one of the things, like he knows that at some stage you got, $5,000 clients. There's a chance that they're going to need a little bit of a period to, let's call it catch up. He's got a $1,500 downsell, right? And what do? They take it. And by the way, he does a exceptional job with his clients. That's going to be part of it. At the end of the day, you got to anticipate it, right? Or a friend asks you for a loan. You ever seen that, right? How does that? Your friend asks you for a loan. You lend them $5,000. How does it go, right? You lose the friend and the money, right? But the words of my old man: everybody needs your money more than you do. What do you need to do? You need to have a plan in place in advance so that it's not awkward, right? Don't lend them the money unless you want to lose the money, lose the friend, or lend them the money and just accept that you're not getting it back. You tell me how that's worked out for you, right? But I'm going to guess that, my instincts are correct. Like I had a mentor, some time ago, got into, some kind of, let's call it financial challenging time, right? Rhymes with 2008, right? Well, he studies a friend's dad. I don't know if he's a billionaire, but, he's as close as you need to be, right? But he basically started the relationship with, look, I'll help you as much as you need, but do not ask me for money. Do you understand the rules of engagement? And I was like, okay. And it, you know what I mean? Was there any, well, by laying that out, you could imagine. And by the way, was it a rewarding relationship? Did he help me out in an incredible level? The answer is absolutely. But it was really good to get those rules of engagement out in front. And he kind of, he saw the ball rolling in the street, and he's like, yeah, I think this is how this could end up going, right? Or maybe, and again, let's bring it back to, you go to a networking event and you don't get a client, right? Do you think that might happen? Do you think that has happened? Of course, right? Well, what's the solution? I don't know, but you're going to go to 3 networking groups, triple your output. And by the way, maybe what you're going to do is say, okay, well, that current offer isn't working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a more powerful pitch. And what could that be? Maybe that's going to be coaching for a month for free if the other offer isn't getting take up. Right? Do you need to do that? Do you not need to do that? Look, if you've got 15 clients and you're almost maxed out, that'd be a bad idea. If you're in the sandbox and you don't have a client, only have 1, 2, 3 clients, that's probably a really good idea. But what's going to happen if you coach people for free and then you're trying to parlay them into, a high-end coaching client? Well, you're going to do a bang up job and you are going to grow some muscles by way of your coaching. Translation, Tom Brady threw the football for free for a while before he started getting paid, right? And again, you might love that, you might not love that, but look, at the end of the day, if you're going to networking events and they're not working, we got to go to the problem and accept it and say, okay, we got to change course, right? Really, what we're doing here, Shoots, is we're going to problem solving mode, right? So if you're in a negative state of mind, you see problems. You're in a positive state of mind, you see solutions. When you go to Tony Robbins and you jump up and down for 4 days, what does he do? He puts you in a positive state of mind. What do you see? Nothing but opportunities. What do you say when you leave Tony Robbins? Oh my God, that was game changing, right? That's why you got to take a holiday. You always dream bigger when you're on holidays. You will meet entrepreneurs all the time, and they'll say, "I haven't had a vacation for 2 years," and they wear it as a badge of honor. By the way, it's a very bad idea. There's a reason why professional athletes take off, 3 to 4 months a year, right? Any associates, success is about preparation versus jumping up and down and clapping hands. I think it's Dwight Eisenhower. He says the magic is not in the plan, the magic is in the planning, right? What does Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? Again, going to the networking function, it doesn't work. We got to fall back on a better game plan. So vision board, having a vision board is going to be better than not having a vision board. But the concern is that if you're using that as a standalone piece of motivation, I think you're going to find that it's not going to get you the results you want. Why? It gets you the dopamine hit. It makes you feel like you've got the reward before the house, before the car, before the date, etc. Comes. So anyways, I just want to close with be ruthless with planning and problem solving is what I would recommend, right? So vision board, good. Planning and problem solving as a framework, significantly more effective. I don't know, Shoots. That's my answer, bud. What do you think?
Okay, so yeah, let's jump into the next one because the next one is I think it would probably vary. Just you ask 10 people, you're going to get 15 different opinions. But ideal client. What comes to mind when I say ideal client?
Your best client is you 5 years ago. The end. Maybe a different take. Like mistake that I see with a lot of coaches is they go after what I'll refer to as sexy industries, right? Realtors, chiropractors, dentists, mortgage brokers, the ones that are easily accessible and easy to find, right? So why is that a bad idea generally, right? It's not a terrible idea, but it's just generally speaking, they're just significantly more competitive, right? Like it's kind of like the advice of quote unquote, follow your passion. In fact, I wrote an email today or yesterday about this. Follow your passion and make lots of money, right? It's not totally incorrect. That would be unfair. But things that are sexy, like restaurants, bars, nightclubs, modeling, right? They're significantly more competitive, right? Those industries, 5% make all the money and the other 95% fight for the scraps, right? So ideal client, I would encourage you to consider to go to like a lesser, more innocuous industry. And there's just going to naturally and organically be less competition. Example, they're just search them, right? But like waste management, fire safety, freight brokers, maybe a moving company, payroll processing, packaging companies, dental labs, environmental services, right? So what I want you to be doing is thinking second, third, fourth floor companies as opposed to ground floor, right? The restaurant is going to be on the ground floor. Go second, third, fourth. So something that you're not going to find at the strip mall. Shoots, I was going to say something else there. I can't think of it. I'll come back to it. But the other thing you want to do is ideal client. You want to go to high profit margin industries, right? So the templated example that I always give is like a roofing company. Like if they make $10,000 a job, if not far more, let's just say $10,000 a job. Well, 3 clients over 12 months is 30 grand of profit. Well, if you charge 30 grand a year and you could help them get 3 jobs done, guess what? They made their money back. Plus the systems and all the other magic that you're going to provide. But if they get 6 clients, they doubled their return. If they get 9, 12, 15 clients as a result of working together, and I would That's got to be the frame. That's got to be the mission. That's got to be the direction you go. They're going to be significantly better off, as a result of working with you. And by the way, if they do, $20,000 a roof, it's even more exciting. So I'm looking, massage therapist would be the other one that I would go to where it's bad because they charge $100 for a massage. If you're $2-3 grand a month, do the math, right? They got to do 20 massages a month before they can cover your fees, right? Translation, not good. I wouldn't put that. That's the kind of client that's going to sign up, think it's amazing, get to 90 days and say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to take a break. I need to pause this thing, right? And shoots, I couldn't sell ideal clients. A business that is advertising is a great client. They're paying money to grow their business. And I don't need to speak to them to know that there's a good chance that, it's not working all that well, right? The advertising could work 10 times better if they install the operating system. You need an upsell, a downsell, a cross-sell, a proper, got to control their costs on the way up, got to raise their prices, quarterly, biannually. They need a market dominating position. They got to work to be, rather than work to be the best, which they should, and you should, everybody should, but there's significantly more profit in being the only than being the best, right? And I'll just finish that with, I watched a video earlier today, and a terrible reason, and I've said this lots, right? So that it's the frame, a really bad reason to reach out to me is because you need a client. A really bad reason to reach out to the landscaping company, to the butcher, the baker, the candlestick makers, because you need a client, right? Why are you going to reach out to them? Because they have got a problem that you can solve. They have got a problem that you are wildly passionate about running over the top of and solving. But it's in closing, your best client is you 5 years ago. You can just see, the balls rolling in the street at a significantly higher level. So that's my answer, Shoots. Ideal client. There you go.
Okay. I'm going to keep the ball rolling here, and I'm going to pick a word for which you own the domain. Focused. Talk to me about focus, Shoots, because I'm going to have a follow-up on this one, but let's just start with focused.
Good. And by the way, I own hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of domains. Okay, but focused. Okay, good one. Okay, so the ability to perform with focus, how do I say it? Just thinking AI, right? It's becoming increasingly rare at the exact same time as it's becoming increasingly valuable in the business world, right? Focused people will thrive in an AI world. The average business owner, you tell me, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. They've got like 5 AI subscriptions and using none of them correctly. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Debatably a horrific thing is what I would say, right? So maybe said differently, if you're not measuring it, it's underperforming. You got to stay focused in the absence of tracked outcomes. Work culture defaults to what? And I'm going to tell you that whatever is easiest in the moment, right? They're confusing being busy with being successful, right? Good idea, bad idea, rhymes with horrific, right? Now, and maybe again from my daily email, I think this was last week. You're going to take 10 steps. Road Dog's going to take 10 steps. I'm going to take 10 steps. You're going to take 10 steps. Your client's going to take 10 steps. You can take 10 steps in 10 different directions, or you can take 10 steps in one direction, right? Which one is going to get you further, faster? Think of that as focus, right? Worded again differently, a 7-figure coaching company is just an average coach with laser-like focus. Think about it that way. Like you just got to, you got to get focused. But the bottom line, the ability to perform in the world with AI and so many things coming at us, not to mention, wars and everything that's going on. It's the most attention is everything. Dialing in, going in the same direction, helping your clients go in the same direction, not shiny light syndrome, another option, another program, and another this and another that. Keep them dialed in. You stay dialed in. That's a good thing, Shoots. What is it? Bruce Lee, he says he's not scared of the guy who's practice 10 something, like 10,000 moves. He's worried about the guy that's done one move 10,000 times, right? I think that could be a good way of describing getting focused. There you go, Shoots. That's my answer, bud.
Okay, that actually gives me a good quote that I want to throw at you. But before I go there, because I'm going to go to a Steve Jobs quote. But first, I want to go and ask you, why did you pick focused.com? Why that name?
I can tell you, I woke up, no joke, and I was like, I have gotten, this is this is 15 years ago, possibly long over 10 years ago. Well, actually, yeah, 15 years ago, comfortably. And I literally woke up and I'm like, I have got to get focused. I have got to get focused. I was like, I've got to get focused. And then I was in the process, I was buying up domain names, etc. And I was like, I got to buy focused. And I went, and the guy had it to do, did a little bit of homework. I got him on the phone and I'm like, look, man, I want this domain name and I want to buy it from you. And you know what I mean? And he was like, oh man, I don't know. Dad, he was on his, no joke, he was on his way to Mexico. And I said, look, do you want a little bit of spending money for Mexico? His answer was yes. So I sent him the money in good faith. I said, look, at the end of the day, man, I need it and I don't need it tomorrow, but I do need it. So I paid him for the domain name. And while he would, he was going to Mexico, I gave him a little bit of spending money. And then he got back and we sorted it all out and went. But that's why, no joke, I was just like, I got to get focused. Well, there's a famous story of Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. They sat down with Bill Gates' dad. Bill Gates' dad was a very successful guy. And he gave them both independently a piece of paper. He said, I want you to write down one word. I want you to write down one word. I don't want you to collaborate. I don't want you to speak, right? Warren, here's a piece of paper. Bill, here's a piece of paper. And I want you to write down one word on why you are successful. And guess what? No joke. The story's out there, by the way. They both wrote down the same word. I will let you guess as what that word was. And that's a very old story, and that would have fallen into it. Because I was like, look, I just got to dial in, man. I felt like I was going in multiple, and I was at the time at a, very, a debatably very successful company, a 7 figures, etc. But I was like, look, I got to get dialed in here. So that's the answer, Shoots. That's how it happened. That's what happened right there.
Okay, so back to the quote. I want to get your, what comes to mind when I say the crazy ones make all the money?
Oh, love it, Shoots. Okay, so when I do a live event, I'm on stage and I've got signs around the room generally. I always try to do that, right? To get people pumped up and thinking. And again, I want to get them in a positive state, right? Notwithstanding, I want to pass on some lessons. Well, the one that sits right beside me when I step on stage for the, the first, minute, what I mean? Initially at the beginning of the seminar, let's call it, I've always got that sign. The crazy ones make all the money. Absolutely true, in my opinion, by the way. Have a look. You tell me, like you tell me, right? So just, yeah, I just want to make sure that I stand by it. That's my experience. Maybe said differently. I think I said this last week or the week before, but pessimists get to be right. Optimists get to be rich. You can often predict how successful someone's going to be by their level of optimism. And by the way, shout out to Mrs. Davis in grade 5. Guess what? Still remember this to this day. But she gave me I think everybody got an award, by the way. So I don't think this was anything special. But the award that she gave me was most optimistic in the class. No joke. So optimism, I think let's call it a superpower. This coach going week to week, month to month, deciding if they're going to continue is behind the 8 ball wildly, right? Chewing on crayons debatably. Delusion is a beautiful thing in business. And I would dare say delusion is like optimism on steroids, right? You got to speak your way to success. So as I say that, I would imagine you'd agree, but my question is, what's that conversation you're having with yourself when you're by yourself? What is it? The conversation you're having with yourself about yourself when you're by yourself, right? Like, what is that? And are you talking about conquering the world? Are you talking about solving huge problems? Imagine what Elon Musk is thinking about in his quiet moments, right? And you love Elon Musk, you don't love Elon Musk. I mean, my gosh, the level of success is nothing short of eye-watering. And I would encourage everybody to read his autobiography, by the way. And what does Elon Musk say? Very famously, he says, take your 10-year goal and aim to achieve it in 6 months, right? I think that's what he says. It might be 12 months. I'm pretty sure it's 6 months. You're likely going to fail, right? But you'll be miles ahead of the competition, and you'll be miles ahead of where you otherwise would be, right? Have you ever thought, what are your 10-year, and you should have a 25-year goal, a 10-year goal, a 5-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 1-year goal, a 9-month goal, a 6-month goal, a 3-month goal, a 1-month goal, and a 1-week goal, etc. Right? And they should all rhyme. They should all coalesce, right? If you're, let's call it the 10-year goal, like what is that 10-year goal? And if you were to accomplish it in 6 months, what would that look like? Right. And maybe so on the economy, right? Like, so a bit of a side note, regulation is brutal for an economy. And you go USA and Europe, right? They had about the same economy in 2005. By the way, look it up. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I think you're going to find that I'm absolutely correct. Well, USA has doubled in that time, and Europe has grown marginally, call it 10%, right? Well, why? Europe has tight regulations. USA does not, right? So Europe regulations are like governors, like tariffs are kind of top of mind. Well, think of like governors like 50% tariffs on things like manufacturing, and maybe even 100% tariffs on things like services, right? Africa is even worse at regulation current time. Have a look, tell me if I'm right, but they're not really getting ahead. And I think if you speak to minds significantly smarter than myself, they're going to say those things, those regulations are holding them back. Canada, by the way, same thing. Canada is choking itself on regulations. And if you know it, again, look it up. But like the resources that Canada has got are, again, eye-watering. And have a look at the economy and you tell me if getting ahead, etc. China, by the way, I'll let you guess if they have tight regulations or not. In an AI world, that just leads me to one word, and that one word would be zoinks. Yeah. So, and by the way, China, and is China, so what am I saying? Is China's economy thriving and whatnot? That's not actually the case. The best performing economy, if you were to ask me that, I believe by 25 miles, maybe 100 miles in the past few years is India. And again, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Have a look, speak to smarter, listen to smarter minds than I, but I think you would say their lax regulations would be a part of that. So, okay, how's that relevant? What do I do with that? Carl, help me. Where are you going? Translation to coaching. Make it easy to sign up a client, right? Like, do you really need them to agree to 12 months? Really? Right? Aren't they going to leave? If it's not working, aren't they going to leave anyway? Right? Do you really want to work with a client because they signed paperwork 5 months ago when they're not getting the results that you desire, that they desire, and they're not doing anything that you agree on, and it's frustrating for you, it's frustrating for them? What are you going to do? You're going to let them go, right? Like, so regulations are governors in many cases, right? So again, make it really, really easy to sign up a new coaching client. Don't put parameter. And by the way, maybe you feel, and okay, little red arrow, you are here. What's the starting line? What's the finishing line? If you are in the sandbox, I'm going to say very few regulations. If you've already got 15 clients and you're only looking to get 17, you max out at 18, I would probably say, well, yeah, okay. You obviously meet people very naturally. You get in front of people very naturally. You close very naturally. Okay. Well, put a 12-month governor on it because you feel like that's really important. But if you're in the sandbox and you're looking, you're looking for new clients, regulate, make it really scaled pricing would be an example, right? But a lot of people I don't work for $1 under $3,000 a month with a client. Like, okay, that's fine. But remember, 96% don't make it to $1 million. You tell me a client doing, $600,000 gross is $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year, going to be a significantly larger commitment than it is to the company doing 3 million, 3 million in gross revenues with 15% net margins, right? The answer is obvious. So anyway, so just make sure taking this, not meant to be black and white, that, so it's very gray, but regulations, I would be encouraging you to be thinking about. Make it really easy for them to sign up and watch your economy, watch your bank balance, watch your client list grow, watch the referrals. If you sign up and they've got to be there for 12 months and you're an accountant, can you see how that would be cause for a little bit of hesitation? Well, no, I need to know that this relationship's going to be fantastic. Like back in the day, what I used to do, I would always have a check in my pocket and then I would sign them up and just, many, going back a long time ago, right? But like it's 10 grand for a coaching, to become a client. I would rip out a check, sign it, dated 12 months from that day and say, look, does this make you feel more comfortable? Right? Obviously it did. Signed up lots of clients, made it, you want the economy. Regulations are a bad thing. Governors are a bad thing. I would consider being, a little bit more India than Europe in that regard. And again, sometimes necessary, but be optimistic, right? And, be crazy good at what you do. But the crazy ones make all the money. So that's what. Anyway, shades of crazy ones make all the money. I absolutely believe that. Speak it into existence and speak wildly big goals into existence.
Before I'm going to circle back because we left off, we had to cut it short. Too many rabbit holes last podcast. But Tim Cook is stepping down. I'm not sure if you heard that news. Any thoughts on that?
I would not call it a positive move. Like, he is brilliant. I mean, Steve Jobs is amazing and a visionary. Tim Cook is an operational maestro. So, like that. Would Tim? By the way, do you think Tim Cook thinks if he thinks cares in my opinion? The answer is a hard no. But I can't see it being good for Apple. It worked out very well when Steve Jobs handed the mantle to Tim Cook. So that I hope for Apple as a company, because I believe that it's an amazing one. I hope that it's good, but I would not be buying the stock tomorrow. That's my answer, Shoots. I'm not, but again, I don't really know too much about it. I've read, I've read a little bit on it and seen the guy, blah 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 blah. The new guy, I can't remember his name, but yeah, that's.
And you know what though, I would say a lot of us.
What do you
think?
Same
boat of after Steve Jobs going, who the hell's Tim Cook? But when you take a look at the financials of what he's done, it's pretty impressive. The only thing that like freaks me out about Apple is their lack of AI and like, to me, it's one of those, what are you going to wait 3 months? Like, I look at the things I'm doing with AI now and I take a look back 3 months ago and I'm like, that was the output I got 3 months ago. That's trash. Like, you could do 10 times, 100 times better now than you could 3 months ago. And I just worry that they're going to miss the boat by trying to have their own ecosystem for their own devices. Wow, this sounds really familiar to another giant that used to dominate the space that also was very concerned about their ecosystem. Everybody's favorite, BlackBerry. So I'm not saying they're the next BlackBerry, but you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, change no trash. I love my BlackBerry, buddy. Sometimes I wake up and I'd love to go back to that bad boy. That thing was awesome, man. Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't yet. But it's just when I take a look at this with AI, I'm like, what the hell? Like, they've got all the money in the world, right? Like, I take a look at Meta. So Meta goes out, they buy Manus, which is one of my favorite pieces of AI of all time. Like, it's unbelievable. They go out and buy Manus for $2 billion, and it's being fully integrated into their platform. Like, good for you guys, right? Like, that's huge. So, but you have to be if you want to compete. But yeah, anyways, I worry about Apple. I really do. I worry because when I ask my phone questions, like Siri and Alexa, sorry, they're dumb. Like, they are just like, I can't even. I have conversations with Grok or with Gemini, and it's a conversation, right? So
yeah, Siri is a piece of poop.
It's terrible,
man. Forget it.
It's terrible, absolute terrible. It's a dog's breakfast. Anyways, that is a hell of a transition point. But last week, I don't want to forget this. I said we talk about it. We were talking about comparisons, right? And how that could be used to get clients. And it was something in regards to like creating lists and doing all this. And it was like, well, but they got to be able to do something with these lists once they create it or all that stuff. Does that ring a bell? Do you want to maybe do a
Yeah.
quick
Yeah.
sort of recap and jump
Yeah.
back in? I thought there's a very important loop that I'd like to close.
Okay. Okay. Good call. Good call. Rehash. Try rehash. I don't know. So, um, who's to say you aren't the number one business coach in Sacramento, right? Or the fastest growing, right? And the question is, though, are you willing to take that mantle, that title, and create it for yourself, right? Salesforce, uh, I don't number one in CRM, I think, right? Translation worked out pretty well for them, right? What's the golf ball tight list? I think it is number one in golf, number one ball in golf, something like that. Red Bull, number one energy drink, right? So I think America's number one hairdresser in Cincinnati, best reviewed landscaper in Wisconsin, right? Create any example you want. And by the way, do you want to do this for you? You want to do this for your clients? And again, the higher level question is that within your identity? And is that who you are as a person? And do you feel like you deserve that mantle, right? Like, can you own it? Can you own it when you say it, right? Because you don't want to say it in a meek way. So you kind of got to go there first and really own it. Um, like, so I just go like in the notes on my phone, right? I've got a somewhat prominent entry that reads like this. I have something you'll never have, dot, 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 enough, right? Not wanting something is as good or better than having it. And by the way, I learned this, this and that, the hard way. Cough, cough. Because FOMO is the most, fear of missing out is the most expensive thing in your life. And by the way, that might be a little bit of exaggeration. I don't know who, you know what I mean? That you might, fall in the sphere, but generally speaking, like we used to keep up with the Joneses and now we got to keep up with the Kardashians, right? How's that going? So that said, comparisons can be a bugger, right? And then you ask me why. A man rising in status is critical to their inner confidence, right? But the problem, we used to elevate against the tribe. Okay. How many people in the tribe? No idea, but 50, 500, right? Biggest, strongest, best hunter, best provider. Now with social media, and having the entire world connected, we have to compete with a billion people plus, right? So like when you're a good scrapper, you can always be guaranteed there is somebody stronger, meaner, and with less to lose who's going to kick your butt. So you best be careful, right? By the way, Dangerous Dave, I could tell you a funny story about the real life Dangerous Dave. Ooh, he got his butt kicked by at a high school party because he's tough. There's no doubt about it. Um, and he met somebody a little bit tougher that night, and it didn't go too well. So anyway, so you just got to be a little bit cautious, right? It was a lesson in that for me and all my buddies, because again, he was the craziest, and nobody messed with him until somebody did mess with him. Um, anyway, so and it's the same in social. When you make 7 figures, 8 figures, within 10 seconds of scrolling, you're going to find somebody doing 9 or 10, right? A $500,000 Lambo is amazing until a $5 million limited edition Bugatti pulls up beside you, right? Translation, status is a game you can't win, right? Status is a game you can't win. So you go, okay, Carl, got to get that. It's depressing, but give me the solution. You got to turn it into an inner game you can win where you don't give a rat's backside, right? So the ultimate level, talked about this a lot. The ultimate level is to not care. Even better than not caring is to not even notice, right? Easier said than done. And in fairness, I'm a work in progress, and Road Dog may or may not know a thing or two about that. But at the end of the day, though, just it's the highest level frame. Don't care, don't notice. So with that, another problem. Let's talk about the comparisons. Like, you're going to get ranked on this list, right, of the top business coaches. Will you tell anyone? Will anybody know? Right? Like, do you have a platform? And the answer is probably not. And it's not just to get known, it's to get known by the right people, right? Like, you could have a list and only 7 people know about the list that you rank number 1 on, number 2 on, number 3 on. And if those are the right 7 people, fabulous, and you can knock it out of the park. You get on a list and nobody knows about it, not even the 7, right? Well, what's the point, right? So it's worded differently. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. That's a very powerful frame. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. Like 7. So I used the number 7 a minute ago. Like 7 JV partners will change anybody's coaching business in a meaningful way. And again, I hope you can kind of the power of that lens. And how it aligns for you to get the 7 figures. Like people don't hit 7 figures because they're too busy earning 6 figures, right? If you're not hitting 7 figure, you're not hitting multiple 6 figures, it's because you're too busy trying to get to 100 grand. If you're at a few hundred grand and not getting to 7, and that's the goal because you're too busy earning 6 figures and having, the difference between a 500, like a $500,000 company, a $5 million company, and a $50 million company is priorities. Right. And by the way, I built an 8-figure coaching company, and I can tell you, you need 2 things. You need a lot of things, but I would, just sit down and simplify it to leverage and priorities. Right. So you go, okay, what's leverage? Think money, think contacts, think your network, think events that, you host and that you attend and speak at, influence, right? Priorities. Like the difference between a 6 and 8-figure business isn't hustle and grind, and it's not staying at the office longer. It's what I said a second ago. It's priorities. Like I was talking to one of our coaches, Andrew Castine. Shout out to Andrew. He's one of our clients. He does live events, and he does a bang up job, by the way. He's presenting at an upcoming conversion seminar that we're hosting. So like how to take an alignable contact or a business card and turn it into a high-end coaching client. So he's talking to one of his prospects, and he's talking about how he's at, let's call it, he's at roughly 50 grand a month, right, with his business. And his plan is to get to 83,000 a month, right? Why 83,000? Because 7 figures is $83,333 a month, right? So he thinks he'll be there in about 6 months. He's got a plan, and he's kind of on that trajectory. And the guy, the prospect, like I wasn't there, but he's explaining to me this, and we were both laughing, right? Like he's speaking to a prospect about his numbers and what they look like, 50 grand on the way to 83. And the client, the prospect, the average business owner, he goes per month, right? It's like the 50 grand. He's like, 50 grand a year, 50 grand a month. What the heck are you doing? So anyway, so that just, as a frame, like Andrew will tell you live events are a bugger. We set him up with a bit of a gamification close. Shout out to Courtney Lodge, by the way. Good job, Courtney. But he gets 3 referrals per attendee. That's the frame, and he does it consistently. Imagine how easy it is to fill your event when everybody you know is sending you 3 people, right? Think about going into a business. Think about going into the business of branding you. Right? Branding you. What would that look like? Right? Like Tony Robbins is in the business of being Tony Robbins. Make no mistake about that. Right? A guy I know is one of the first investors in Salesforce. Right? Like Tony Robbins is a billionaire right off the back of his shares in Salesforce alone. And by the way, as I understand it, he got them for free just for coaching Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce. Right? But the bottom line, he's in the business. How did he get that? Because he's in the business of promoting him. Elon Musk is in the business of, being and promoting Elon. That's why he bought Twitter and renamed it X, right? The Rock, he's in the business of being Rock. Taylor Swift, he's in the business of being Taylor Swift. Madonna, back in the day. Madonna needs a shout out. The exact same thing, right? Like when think about it this way. When one guy gets paid 100 grand per year to coach, and the other coach standing beside him gets paid 12 grand a year to do fundamentally the same job, or maybe like an example, like an actor gets $50,000, and then the other actor gets 10 million, 25 million, even, 50 million. It's not $49 million of talent that separates them, right? It's Tom Cruise is in the business of promoting Tom Cruise. Conor McGregor makes me think of him, right? Like the guy made like $100 million to fight Mayweather, and he's not a boxer. Make it make sense, right? It's insanity. Don't even get me started on Jake Paul and what he's doing. And by the way, I got full respect and the full props go to Jake Paul for what he's doing. I think he's doing an amazing job. At the end of the day, the guy is in the business of promoting Jake Paul. Right. So if you want to get overpaid at an insane level, like folks like The Rock, um, that's what you want to do. Or maybe worded differently, rock stars get cute girls because they're stars, not because they're good looking, right? The big money flows to people with high levels of status. And this probably annoys you. And it's kind of talking about earlier, like there's just a balance between what I'm describing and what I talked about earlier in terms of not really caring. Like, what's the saying, needing nothing attracts everything, right? But I do encourage you to go into the business of being you. You got to be really, when somebody says, why do you do what you do? When you meet somebody at a networking function, like, what does it sound like? And don't think you do this at a significantly smaller scale. Like I'm talking about Madonna and The Rock and Elon Musk, right? I don't know, just could you buy a billboard like the realtor does? Um, do those work? Generally, no. How do they work? They are defense. When you're a realtor and you buy a big billboard and pay $2,000 a month, generally speaking, it doesn't get a lot of new people, but what it does is it gets your mom, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, your cousin, your best friend from high school referring more people to you. So see those billboards as defense, is more than you do offense, right? And by the way, so you go, okay, well, I'm a business coach. What do I do? I got to tell you, I told you, Andrew, a minute ago, we talked about it hundreds of times over the years on the podcast, but doing live events. People love educators. And your job is just to be a darn good one. Don't be the person that kind of shows up and uses all the Jedi mind tricks to kind of really give them no value, but take them to a really ugly place so they feel bad about themselves and end up signing for that reason, right? I think you should do it in such a way that if they buy from you or they don't buy from you, they think it's amazing, right? Like way back when I used to do a live event where I guaranteed to solve any marketing problem on the spot, right? A few years ago, I guaranteed to solve any business coaching problem on the spot. Yes, I poop my pants before starting, but you tell me if that's something that you'd like to come to. You tell me if that's something you think might raise your eyebrows and you might go, who is this guy? Who is this person? Right. And notwithstanding, give them a little bit of authority in terms of, oh, wow. Okay. Like sounds like this guy or this gal really knows what they're doing. Right. And it won't happen for you overnight. It's going to take work. And by the way, quite possibly a lot more work than what you're currently putting in. And by the way, your clients, help them do the same, right? Like helping them become a better landscaper, painter, accountant, electrician, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. Like that's good, right? They got to be really good at what they do. But well, there's a saying, I think it's Dan Kennedy, you don't want to shout too loud until you actually want to be heard, right? So let's make sure they're fabulous at landscaping before we go and promote the absolute heck out of them. But ultimately, there's more money in being the only than being better. We want to help them become the marketer of landscaping, the marketer of roofing, the marketer of, being the number one roofer in the city, right? I'm not going to go deep on this, but identity shift is going to be required. You don't want to take your identity and like improve it by 10 or 20% in order to really have that identity shift required to really go to the next level. You need to blow up your old identity and move into your new one, totally new one. The last one is stamped out like a cigarette. And by the way, got to go down a rabbit hole here, but like a good metaphor is your body. I don't care if you like nourishing foods, right? Like lots of water and you like to exercise. Your health is delivered as results in accordance to how you play the game of health, right? And by the way, according to the rules, right? Translation, you are what you do, not what you think about, right? So again, you love water, but you're not drinking a significant amount of it throughout the day. You love, leafy green vegetables, but you're not eating significantly, a significant number of them on it. And remember, it's an apple a day, not 7 apples on Sunday because you forgot. Right. Again, consistency is kind of like the rules of engagement. Shoots. Okay. I'm going a bit long here, but storytelling is also, it needs to be mentioned here. How do you tell the story of you? Right. Like the hottest celebrities, think Tom Cruise, Margot Robbie. Shout out to Margot Robbie. That's a pretty woman. They're incredible at answering questions about themselves and then delving into stories about the new movie that they're starring in, right? Making it funny, making it dramatic. Making it education, making it educational, making it revealing about themselves, right? Like I wrote a blog post about my first hockey fight when I was like 16 years old. And by the way, I'm playing against guys that are like, 5 years older than me and 5 to 10 inches taller. You probably Google it, but the fight ends with the guy tapping me on the head as if to say, that was never going to go very well for you, kid, but good on you for having a crack. And I hope your nose heals quickly. Anyway, so like, how do you go about telling those stories, right? Like, forget Leonardo and Elon Musk and The Rock. What stories do you have to tell? Have you thought about them? Have you practiced them? Have you thought about how you can ramp up the quote unquote conflict in the story that you tell, right? How everything was going harebrained and everything was going sideways. And then you went, oh my gosh, you installed the operating system and everything, all the dreams came true, including the exit, whatever it might be, right? Because every episode of Friends, Seinfeld, Three's Company, The Bachelor, whatever, they all have conflict as the central theme, right? So you got to get good at talking about conflict and overcoming it. So how can you turn your story into a metaphor for, learning about life and business? And when I ask you what you do, what is your answer, right? Do you tell each new prospect or new client, or do you assume that your story, or do you feel like your story gets boring and that nobody wants to hear it, right? I'm going to guess that you don't tell your story repeatedly, and I'm going to tell you that's a mistake. You want an example of that? Watch a 15-minute interview with Tony Robbins, and he's going to talk about when he was 11 years old. It was Thanksgiving, and I probably don't need to complete the story, right? He's still saying it to this day. Like Martin Luther King, right? How did he start his most famous speech of all time? 4 words: I have a dream. What did he not say? He didn't say, I have a step-by-step plan, right? And by the way, Shoots, don't be a badass when you're not a badass, and don't put yourself out there as Mother Teresa when that's actually not the case, right? You want examples of that? Britney Spears, Tiger Woods, right? You got to be authentic and genuine, but amplify it, right? And by the way, you're going to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. But make no mistake, the number one rule of becoming a 7-figure coach is mindset and identity. I'm going to say you got to go deeper than mindset, but it's just that what's in between your ears. What are you saying to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself, right? You need to feel super worthy of promoting you. Conviction, like curiosity gets you the appointment. Conviction gets you the sale. What is your level of conviction when you go to close that client? Makes me think of RJ, who I mentioned earlier, legend. And he's talking, he closed a $10,000 client, right? And he was like, not sure, right? And I believe he's talking to Gary, one of our guys. Shout out to Gary Mansky. And he's like, well, just try it and see how it goes, right? And what did RJ do? He tried it. Well, what happened? The client closed at 10 grand a month. And by the way, you're also did it. How did it work out? The answer is it worked out marvelously, both for RJ, but even more importantly, the client. Why? RJ didn't do his best. I mean, I'm not on the coaching calls with him, right? But he's not doing his best. He's doing what it takes. So I just ask you, what do you deserve? It's just the identity questions, right? Like, what is real? What is true? What do you deserve? And who are you as a person? You're not going to be able to use that, that list and go into the business of promoting you if you don't feel worthy. So, Shoots, that's my answer. That was a bit of a rabbit hole, Shoots.
All good, dude. All good. It's interesting as you're going there. I'm thinking about that whole amplify and all that stuff. Again, I mentioned probably every week the Gary V one of just you already are somebody, right? Like, stop trying to be something that you're not. And I'm also thinking of, we talk a lot about creating that ideal version of yourself, and maybe we try and stretch that too far. Maybe we're trying to make that a little too distant from who we truly are. So, and what if the person that you truly are today is good enough, and that person's pretty darn cool, and that's who you are. So this leads me into the last question, and I because we're going long today, but I think it's a very, very important one, Shoots. I think this is, again, it's funny how it's just like you could say at any given time, oh, it's challenging out there. Like, what year is it? It doesn't matter. Every year is challenging, right? It doesn't matter what's going on there. There's always something going on. But There's a lot of people out there, dude, that struggle with anxiety. You've mentioned a bunch. We got lots of questions about it. So I get it. The anxiety of performing for a client, anxiety for providing for your family, anxiety of just doing it all day after day after day. It's a lot. It's a heavy, heavy weight, man. Right. So
Yep.
can we talk about that? Like, if you're a coach struggling with anxiety, like, what do you suggest?
Oh, great question, Shoots. Talking to the right guy, by the way. There's look, ambition, anxiety is the price of ambition. Something I've said, by the way, I've said that. And then that concerns me because I'm like, hang on a second, that's not necessarily truth. You know what I mean? But that is my truth. And then I've made it my truth. And then guess what? I find, you know what I mean? I have found that anxiety can be there, right? Because I'm really trying, Anyway, so but that said, if you're ambitious, I don't need to speak to you to know that there's a level of anxiety that just tends to, it comes with with the ambition generally. The foundation of anxiety is feeling unsafe, right? Which, by the way, often stems from childhood trauma. Like anxiety is a problem in your nervous system, not your brain, generally. Not a psychiatrist, not a therapist, not pretending to be happy to be wrong, right? But I do like depression is an unhealthy fixation on the past. Anxiety is an unhealthy fixation on the future. What's the solution? Solution is to be present, right? Here and there, like Michael Jordan, they say that what's Michael Jordan's superpower? What was his superpower? It's his ability to stay present. So, and by the way, if you want to, like Christmas time, I always do this at Christmas, but Christmas goes really quickly, right? For you, me, Road Dog, and everybody. You want to slow it down, be present. Be present with your family, not thinking about, tonight and you know what I mean? Just stay present. I would also say this Shoots like, how do I say it? Your fears are your flashlight towards inner peace. So I'm going to call inner peace the opposite of anxiety. All right. So your fears are the flashlight. So what are most people doing? They're running from their fears. They're hiding from their fears. And what would somebody significantly more qualified than I say? I think they say lean into your fears because your light and your magic is on the other side, right? Like you've gotten through everything to date, right? The divorce, the sickness, the whatever. Well, guess what? You're going to get through this too, right? So that the letter from your 90-year-old self, which might be a good idea, that you write to yourself, unless you're 90, and then guess what? It's got to be from your 110-year-old self. And what does it say? But something to the effect of, it's okay, everything works out. As I say that, and you say that to yourself, and maybe if you read that on a daily basis, that might strip away a little bit of anxiety. Because remember, we don't want to diminish your anxiety. We want to dissolve it, right? Maybe let me give you an example, right? Like somebody says something happened to me when I was young, right? My dad never loved me. My dad never called me, never came to my baseball game, my dance recital. Okay, so what happened? So now I don't have any self-worth, right? Well, what you're really saying, what that person is really saying is that all of your self-worth is over there with that guy, dad, the uncle, the guy who took your life savings for the investment that went sideways, right? And you're saying your power is over there with him or her and not within you, right? What you're really saying is, I'm a victim, right? And my question is, do you really want that as your identity? Not to mention, Road Dog, you just said this a minute ago, but it's categorically untrue, right? Like you are a rock star right here, right now, in your own skin as I speak to you, right? So the great news and the solution, I think this is straight from Tony Robbins. I don't know how he words it, but like all you need is within you now. All you need is within you now. The end, drop the mic, everybody go home, right? Like, so maybe the translation, and Road Dog, I think this is what you said a second ago. So the trick is to let go, not to learn, not to become, not what do you need. It's to, so let's think of it, it's to unbecome versus become, right? If you made your one and only mission, quote unquote, to have peace and love yourself, how awesome would that be? And by the way, how easy could that be? And there's a chance that it's a little bit harder for some than others, right? But if that was your only goal, right, to have peace and love yourself, I don't know. Needing nothing attracts everything, right? So your goal is not, what am I saying? Your goal is not to get married. Your goal is not to have kids. It's not to build $1 billion brand or exit a business for X amount of millions, right? Your goal, I think, and if you're struggling with anxiety and you're looking for a solution, I'm going to say your goal is to have inner peace, right? Really and genuinely love yourself. Like if you made that your goal, what would that mean? Right? Like some very powerful minds will tell you that is the one and only goal of life, and exactly how you feel, what you'll be thinking about on your deathbed, right? The peace that you didn't have, right? It's not going to, the story is, it's not going to be, geez, I wish I went to work. I wish I made more money, right? So again, your anxiety won't improve. It disappears. Live like that now rather than wait, right? Enjoy the clouds, enjoy the sky. I've told you the story of my mom, she was in bad health, ended up passing away. The clouds, the sky, the flowers, the smell of the flowers. I mean, I couldn't smell the flowers, the flowers. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing, right? And by the way, am I saying not to be ambitious and not to try and make a dent in the universe, like a la Steve Jobs? Hard no. What I'm saying is building the 7-figure coaching company to get the freedom, to get the inner peace, is the cart before the horse, right? Needing nothing attracts everything. What the Peter principle? He who has everything, more is given, and he who has nothing, everything is taken. Right. So, wow. And by the way, I might be messing that up a little bit in the words, but and by the way, it's not an opinion. I mean, this is science significantly more than it is art. Feel free to road test it, right? You don't think the rough roads, the cancellations, the rogue staff members, the family member that try you, quote unquote, at the highest level, they're your greatest gift versus, a bit of a, challenge, or maybe even a worse nightmare, depending upon how you're seeing it in the current moment, right? And remember, the highest level is to be bothered by nothing, to solve anxiety. And this is the Navy SEAL, the neurosurgeon, the person that just got robbed or being robbed or attacked, like in the actual moment. The best thing you can do is what? And that's control your breathing, right? Like I've said it a lot, like when shooting pool, you mess up on the 8-ball, you go really good, and then you mess up in the 8-ball. Why? Your breathing changes, without doubt, right? Why does a poker player stare at the other poker player? They're watching breathing, they're watching for, they're watching for a lot of stuff, but breathing pattern, absolutely, right? So when you do the presentation and you crush it, but then you mess up the close, what happened? Your breathing pattern changed. The end, right? When it becomes shallow. And by the way, if you want to test this, jump into a cold plunge. All right. What will you do? You will start to hyperventilate. I can guarantee it, right? If you haven't done it time and time again, what do you got to do? Control your breathing when you jump into the cold tub and watch what happens. You can sit in freezing cold water for how long? And the answer is pretty much for as long as you want. Anyway, I said, look, rid yourself of anxiety. What am I saying? Practice breathing calmly. Breathe out longer than you breathe in, just for simplicity. And you tell me, but you like say I've got like an Oura ring. When I, feeling anything that rhymes with anxious, I calm my breathing down. I calm out. I breathe out longer than I breathe in. And my Oura ring, you can see it. I go into like restorative, whatever. Like I go into restore. How to say that word, but anyways. So I know. And by the way, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But I will tell you this. If somebody's asking this question, they're looking to excel, right? You want to be great at sales? Be calm. You want to be great on stage? Be calm. You want to be a great spouse? You want to be a great parent? Be calm. To be calm, what do? You breathe slowly. You breathe in a controlled manner. So how do you do that? Practice. And don't practice to practice. You practice to improve.
Okay,
anyway, Shoots, I don't know.
Hang on. What rhymes with anxiety? I love it when you do that. If it rhymes with anxiety, what rhymes with anxiety, Shoots? All right. For all the fans out there, I know that you were just talking about I wish. So what comes to my mind?
saws around. I wish I was a baller. If I had a girl with a kid, I would call it. If I had a rabbit in a hat.
No? Come on,
I
Shoots.
can hardly
Shit.
hear it, Shoots.
Oh, little
Hardly hear it.
skilo. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was. Come on. There you go. All right, folks.
Well done, Shoots.
Okay. All right. You know what? We're going to. I hate it. I hate to do this for everybody, but we're not going to have time for the moment of Zen this time. So it's going to be an extra hard hitting or a double dose of calming Zen next time. Guaranteed. That's a Karl Bryan 100% guarantee right there, folks. Take it to the bank. It is happening. On that note, thanks for hanging with us on yet another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Here's the deal, okay? Like, if you want more of this every single day, Karl sends out daily emails packed with coaching strategies, client wins, and the stuff that's actually moving the needle right now. So head to focus.com, get on the inside. It's where the real work happens. And hey, if this episode helped you, do us a solid, share with another coach who needs to hear it. Leave us a review if you're feeling generous. Hey, we're on a mission to impact as many coaches as possible, and you sharing this show makes that happen. That is it for this week, folks. Remember, progress equals happiness. We'll see you in the next episode.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.